episode 10. We back again. Yeah. Did Don Mayfield predict the future? How do we look at the legacy of the rebel? Is Jeep Redboy and Boyles the bell bondsman of Bulldog? Let us analyze the evidence on this episode of Bulldog Court. Bulldog community, please rise. This is your host, Get a Hold James, because we got to get a hold of the game.
Court is now in session.
Back again for number 10. I'd like to thank everybody for coming to check me out tonight. You could have been anywhere else in the Bulldog streets, but you're here with me. I appreciate you. First of all, I'd like to thank everybody for checking out my first ever Bulldog Court live for number 9. You're on the dig. It was a success. You know, we had a shaky start. It was kind of ragged in the beginning, but you know what I'm saying? We tried to smooth it out as it went along. But I'm glad that the people showed up for the ride in the court session with the Honorable J-Bo nonstop from Bulldogin with Bo on DogmanTv. So happy that they was able to grace the courtroom with their commentary on the state of the different issues and cases pertaining to the Bulldog world. And I really appreciate those guys for doing that. But like I start off every show, I am not the judge nor jury, for it is up to you, the Bulldog community, to decide which way the tide may roll. We're not going to even hold your time. We're going to get right into this first case. Did Don Mayfield predict the future? I would like to first present the Bulldog community with an audio to show you where I'm getting this information from. You know, pull a receipt to see what it is I'm talking about from the horse's mouth, not mine, or what he thought about pertaining to Maurice Carver and the future of his lineage, or he call it lineage, whatever you call it, tomato, potato. He said lineage. We say lineage of the Carver line. And we're going to play it right here, like the head. Here you go.
Because they bred lots of dogs, and I would say even more so that those men bred more dogs, more litters of dogs than Earl Tudor bred. But you see, they didn't carry on in breeding them in a family way of breeding. The American game dogs, purist families, they didn't breed that way. And those dogs, they drop out of sight in the history of the breed. The same way with, even though Maurice Carver's name will appear in the American breed, the American families of game dogs, many times today's time. Within a period of time, there won't be any Carver dogs. There won't be any Carver families. And there won't be any Carver bred dogs. They'll be in the lineage of the American breed. And as they become more outcrossed, they just fade out of history. They just fade out of the records. And only the more pure families, they're the ones that leave the records and leave the lineage of history in such a way that they continue on. Now, the purest family that's bred today, it has been bred in a way of lineage, like I've talked of in the last couple of videos, in the way of where it was a takeoff of the last purest family. And then it goes for so many generations there, being bred in different areas, becoming more pure and more pure.
So when we listen to this and we're hearing what Don Mayfield is saying he starts off talking about Carver and those people who have Carver's dogs in the South that got dogs from Carver in Georgia, Florida, the Carolinas, and stuff like that. And he was saying Carver and those people who had Carver dogs bred more pit bulls, bred more of those dogs than Earl Tudor and that generation before them. They bred up more dogs. And so it was an influx, a flooding of Carver dogs throughout the South specifically. He was, talking about before it got to the audio, and then spread out everywhere else. But my question was, is this what we're seeing today? Did Don Mayfield predict the future? Were we seeing that some of these Carver lines are in fact disappearing? We don't see them as much. They are resurfacing elsewhere in the world. And some of them have just about faded away. Or is he totally off base that, about that? Was he totally wrong about, predicting of the Carver lines and Carver families because he felt as though these dogs were, outcrossed on top of another outcross on top of another outcross, which made them far away from, I guess, I don't like to presume in the sense of, especially when you're talking about the legends like Don Mayfield, but he, maybe that's another question too, is what do he mean by the purest families? And he specifically, I am led to assume that he is talking about the Tudor Dabo strand and keeping all those families together. And I challenge everybody to listen to that full audio of Don Mayfield talking. He gave a lot of things to look at and to think about as far as breeding wise and things of that nature. I think that's a thing that's been coming up a lot in the Bulldog community, is breeding. And he was saying that if you keep them pure in a purest family within the family, you don't get as many deformities when you tight breed or line breed. He was saying you don't get the cork tails and the undershots and overbites and all that when you keep them specifically. He said, but when you outcross and tighten and go inbreeding on outcross dogs, he said in his time, that's when you start seeing the deformities take place. He said he has been breeding those tight bred dogs for many, many years. And he doesn't see that. He gets a stronger dog, a better built dog than a bad built dog or deformed dog or a three-legged dog or whatever, or one-eye dog. And take in mind that this audio that you heard was from 1991. This is from 1991. And he is saying this because the Carver line had been bred at that point since the late 1970s up until the death of Maurice Carver. You see what I'm saying? The late 70s. Maybe I think he died in 1979. So, just for the younger dog, to give into context of these names that we call out, the Carver names and everything, and how long these names have stayed relevant in the vocabulary of dog men in and around the U.S. and the rest of the world, from someone who passed in the late 70s. And his name still, reigns supreme and called out constantly. But so, which would lead me to think that maybe Mr. Mayfield was not accurate in that sense. Or is it us? Or is it the fact that the blood has left the room, has evolved and moved on into other things, but we keep bringing that up through our vocabulary or our understanding of what a Carver dog is, and they are no longer Carver dogs anymore. They will have done just what Don Mayfield said. They have faded into time and faded away, but we who are in the world, a Bulldog world, and don't know any of the new names, we will call them what's familiar to us. We'll call them a Carver dog. We'll call them an Eli dog, and they're far removed from it. Is this our doing, Bulldog community? Has the ship sailed on the Carver lines? You know, as far as we once knew them. Have they evolved into something else other than what they once were? To prove Mr. Mayfield true, that they would eventually fade. They would not be able to last the whole entire stake of time. Or could you reverse it? We have to give the other side. Where are the Mayfield dogs? These pure families that he speak of today. Where are these pure families? And if you listen to the audio, this audio that I'm playing now is much more to this audio. So that's why I want people to go back and listen to it in its entirety, the entire thing. I just took a snippet of it to make my case for this particular point. But he talked about also too that he was coming to the end of his life and he was trying to place these dogs with Rod Kirshner. He said, you know, the Braskin dog was in Chicago. We know who was in Chicago in that time, and that was the now late Mr. Rod Kirshner. Okay. He was placing these dogs, Sofiakis and other people. He was placing his purest family dogs with these people because he was on his way out. I don't know if he knew his time was near or what, but he was getting old and he just wanted to secure that someone else who understood the pure families that he was talking about will continue in the pure, to continue to keep them in that pure form. So my question is, once again, did Don Mayfield predict the future? You can agree to disagree. You can disagree, but please make your points in the comment section below. And I would like to really dig deeper into this and to understand more about what he meant by the pure family. What did he mean by this? Maybe this is something for Schoolboy Garcia or somebody who is extremely knowledgeable and have the real depth of knowledge when it comes to the terminology. You know what I'm saying? Maybe we can, talk to, one of his proteges, Mama, or somebody who could help us to understand what Mr. Mayfield meant by a pure family and what do we classify as not being a pure family. So in the case of, did Don Mayfield predict the future? This case is now dismissed. We'll get back to the show after these important messages.
Check out one of the best dog talk shows out here, Bulldogin with Bo, on DogmanTv, Thursdays and Sundays, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. Shout out to his co-host, Nonstop.
Yeah. And for our next case, how do we look at the legacy of the rebel? Let us look into this. When we look at the man that is Ricky Jones, the rebel, as far as his dogman accolades, it's not many during that era who were much better. You know, these top of the tree in that era also hosted some of the most classic matchups in Bulldog history during that time, in that era. You can look at Rebels champion Spooky, Grand Champion Samson, Grand Champion Shady Lady, Champion Turtle, who produced Grand Champion Roscoe, Rebels Champion Bubba, Champion Uncle Josh, Champion Whitehead, Grand Champion Tojo. His list goes on and on and on of those times. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, shout out to Going Hard Twins. They talk about the times when he was defeated. But when you go into that many matchups and showing that many animals, you bound to lose at some point in time. That's just inevitable. It's gonna happen. But for the most part, a lot of winning. And he was doing some other things illegal, at that same time that, landed him in a bad situation with the law, you know. And so, you know, I've heard people say that he was held down when he was well until he started to tell. You know, I'm gonna say it again. They say he was held when he was well now. One of the very best until he started to tell. And so, how does that, or is the Bulldog community, maybe the question that I am proposing to the Bulldog community is, are we able to separate that aspect from just the pure dog man that he was? Are we able to separate the two, or do we dismiss totally his legacy because of incidences that happened thereafter? Those things are over.
Hey, bro, come on now, dog. Come on, man.
We're talking about something that happened in the 1980s, okay? Either the early 90s or 1980s when this bust happened. So people did were convicted. People did go and serve time and have served their time and have paid their debt to society. So there should be no ill looks or anything like that, or ill comments, I don't believe, because of these people got what society, you know, quotation marks, thought that they should deserve or whatever they did. Okay, I'm not here to judge or bash anybody for whatever they did, and I don't think that's even really an issue of what you did on the other side, but it was more so the snitching aspect, the telling, regardless of if you didn't tell on a dog man. I heard people say that. I might have heard him in an interview with Southern Triple J, I believe, you know, talking about, you know, certain things, or you know, if he told on somebody, then what's the report? And then I've heard other people say, well, he didn't tell on any dog men, he told on other dope dealers. You know what I'm saying? He snitched on them, you know. And I think people in that world have a problem with any type of snitching, no matter what it is. Who you told on, if you spared some and told on others, I don't think that is respected in any capacity whatsoever, in any street, whatever, or dog underworld, or drug underworld, or mob underworld. I don't think any type of snitching is going to be accepted, but after so much time, you know. And so that's water under the bridge. But now that when we look back after all these years have passed, do we look at him as just, we're gonna dismiss this other thing? Because I have to be fair to the rebel, and there are other people that have been accused of much more than counterfeit or drugs or whatever. I don't look at, you know, and you could say, you know, judgmental, or looking at that as a bad crime versus pedophilia, versus, you know, you getting caught, you know, messing with some little children. You know what I'm saying? I don't, for me, just for me, I can't excuse stuff like that. But if you got caught with some cocaine, you know what I'm saying? You got, you know what I'm saying? Okay, you know, you're trying to get ahead. Okay. You know what I'm saying? You got caught with some counterfeit cash. Okay, you know what I'm saying? You tried it and you got caught. They slapped your hand and, you know, you served your time. You know, but that other kind of crime like that, I just can't see. You know, and maybe that's just me being judgmental on one side or another. It's all crime at the end of the day. But I just think that, you know, maybe that aspect of myself won't allow me to do that if you go that way with kids. You know what I'm saying? I don't feel like you deserve to even be around on the planet, much less, you know, be included in a Bulldog class situation. You know what I'm saying? And so we've had other people who, you know, who were just, you know, like I say, there are people in the community that we know of right now who've oftentimes been accused of just being a royal asshole. That's just their middle name. Whatever asshole, whatever your last name is. You know what I'm saying? And they've been accused of being, you know, just not the easiest person to get along with. They come off as rude and arrogant. You know what I'm saying? And so people just, you know, look at those people and just say, I'm gonna separate that. Forget all of that. That man or woman has some hell of a dogs. You know, even though I might not agree with them, I might not be able to sit down with them and just have a conversation without altercation taking place. I can respect them for the animals that they had. So is this the case with the Rebel? Do we separate the two, or do we totally remove the person and just acknowledge the animals for what they did and their accomplishments and what they meant to the game? And for those that still may be feeding that lineage of animals, what that means for you and your family of dogs as to understanding what it is that you're exactly feeding. And I'm very big on this, of just trying to understand what it is you're feeding, you know. And so this is the thing I'm proposing to the Bulldog community. How do we look at the legacy of the Rebel? In this case, is now dismissed. Yeah. And for my third and final case, Jeep Redboy. Is Jeep Redboy and Boyles the bail bondsman of the Bulldog world? And let me explain to the court, the Bulldog community, what I mean by this. After substantial amounts of evidence stockpiled, and research has been done, steady fingers have been hitting keyboard keys to uncover and unlock these mysteries that I see unfolding before our very eyes. As in our first case of Don Mayfield predicting the future, we see where there could possibly be many lines that could have been evaporated or faded into history, because they just wasn't able to last. But here come Jeep Redboy to the rescue. Here come Boyles to the rescue.
There they go. Every time I start talking, that's the one.
So we can see where in various times certain lines of dogs, they were not producing the same numbers that they once did, whether it be through people just not knowing how to breed them, first of all. Second of all, they're not up to the standard tried and true, the ones that are tested. So, or any other case you may come forward with as to the reason why a line, people too loosely breeding them, you know, they're getting away from the true essence or the characteristics that the line is known for. Whatever the case may be, we see where when that happens, then you see the next thing they breed is to a Jeep Redboy dog or a Jeep Redboy Rousker dog.
There they go.
No matter what line it is, and then, or if they don't do that, then they will breed a Boyles dog to it. It's like, to me, that's they one.
That's the one.
You know, that's they go-to.
There they go. Every time I start talking,
To save them, to bail them out. When they need bail money, to bail them out of going into bloodline purgatory or whatever it is, you know, into the annals of history, never to return again. Is their savior is some Boyles, or when they stop having the ability that it needs to have, they'll go with the Boyles. When they lose the gameness, here comes Jeep Redboy. I don't care how scattered the pedigree gonna look now. It doesn't matter. I'm trying to salvage what is lost. What should be going in the trash can is now, you know. Every time we start getting ready to put this line or whatever it is in the trash can, here come Jeep Redboy and Boyles to save the day. And so my question to the community is, how do you feel about this? Do you agree with this? Do you agree that they are the bail bondsman? They always bailing you out? You know, every time your dog start, you know, they don't go to up the paw, then here come Jeep Redboy to the rescue. Every time, you know, you don't have that tenacity that you would want to see in an animal, that does count for points as far as confirmation, is the attitude. Okay, then you may put Jeep Redboy and Boyles together and put it in your stuff just to get it to have any kind of resemblance to the dogs of old, you know. And so this is the question that I'm proposing to the Bulldog community. I would like to hear your comments or see your comments down below. And this is the question I have. Is Redboy and Boyles the bail bondsman of the Bulldog world? And this case is now dismissed. Yeah, now it's time for my closing monologue. Like I say every time, make your next move your best move, but move strategic like a chess move. You know, we all need to look into cleansing of our bodies, you know, doing a toxin flush, and to look into that type of stuff for our animals, because just like the food that we eat is not necessarily all the stuff in them is good for you. Got metals in them, you know, mercury in the fish. It's the same thing for the dogs in the dog food. You know, there's not a whole lot of difference between the two in certain cases. So that's something to look into and to try to get better. But this is your host, Get a Hold James, because we got to get a hold of the game. I'm out.